Another great one in terms of presentation and rendering, and this is getting to the rendering side, is the physical camera. This was developed by Chaos Group, which those are the makers of V-Ray. And basically what this one does is creates a new camera that simulates real-life camera settings, such as shutter speed, aperture, depth of field, exposure. And what's great is MenaRay supports it, and V-Ray supports it, all the settings. So it's the best camera type for any photorealistic, physically based rendering. And that's a brand new one. And of course, it will just show up as part of the new camera. It's called physical camera. iRay, it's another, it's part of the rendering enhancements. And iRay, for those of you who don't know, is basically is another renderer that creates physically accurate renderings by tracing light paths. If you never used it, you're missing on something fantastic. Because what it does is you basically take your render engine and swap it right now by default would be maybe the MenaRay one, but if you change it to iRay, what the biggest difference is that it's a time-based renderer. And why am I mentioning it? Because it's got some nice enhancements on the lighting control, sampling for important light and so forth. But this is what I was saying. You can tell it, I only got 2 hours. I got, maybe extra half hour. Just give me your best shot, render. And while it's rendering, it takes a preset calculation approach where it now uses all this kind of a pre-default settings and tries to give you the best rendering solution with the time that you've allocated. And the best part is you can save that image while it's configuring and enhancing that final one within the 2-hour time frame, for instance. So why did I mention it? Because there's a couple of new features, and one of them, in terms of iRay, is this, which is a section point. And again, it's one of a few. What it does is allows, as a helper, it behaves similar to a grid helper, which is cutting a geometry like a section box. But what's cool about it is that you don't have to section the geometry. It does it on the rendering side, and it cuts off the geometry and lets the light in. So it lets the viewer take a peek inside, or basically do like a clip light parameter, where you can still render an inside section area for, let's say, if there's an architectural building, you'll be the first floor sliced into a cut plane, and then you'll be able to see inside. Instead of removing the ceiling and turning off a number of elements and cropping and sectioning, this does it in a second. And again, it does it based on time frame. So you can tell it, I only got 1 hour, give me your best shot. And leaving the best for last, the Autodesk 360 rendering support. This has been awaited for a long time because it was only available from the beginning in Revit, and then was introduced into CAD, in AutoCAD, and now is part of 3D Max. What it allows you to do is basically, and this is a subscription-based service. For those of you who don't know, it uses credits, and those credits, based on what you're trying to render and the time that it takes, it will consume those for producing images. So when I talk about cloud rendering, it's basically taking advantage of this new feature within 3D Max that will render to the cloud. You have your subscription access, and you know how many credits you have. But you'll be able to not just produce a render image, but illuminance simulations for lighting control. If you want to do lighting analysis, you'll be able to do interactive panoramics, and of course, re-render images from previously uploaded files. You access the same Autodesk Gallery as Revit, so it's still limited to images and not yet animation, but it will basically replace a render farm if that's all it takes, then if you have enough credits, which you are entitled to a number of credits per license of max that you have. So I'd say to kind of a little icing on the cake is you now in the gallery and using this service, you're able to convert those images that have been rendered into what they call stereo panoramics and view them with VR goggles like the Google Cardboard. And by the way, they extended the feature for free until August 31st. It was set to end to do free, unlimited stereo panoramic conversions, which is easily done, by the way. But the whole goal is you can take an image from, let's say, Revit or AutoCAD or whichever the software, SketchUp, bring it into Max, render it, and then inside of the gallery turn it into a stereo panoramic and be able to then use something as a chief device that connects to your cell phone, which, by the way, it actually uses your, it connects once it's rendered from the gallery, it will give you a link that can be accessed through your cell phone, and that cell phone, using a device like the Google Cardboard, the Samsung Gear, and there's a number of other ones, would allow you to see your scene in something like this. An example of a Revit file that now you have the ability to basically look around with an interactive panorama. That's an example, but also take the link and view it as a virtual reality immersive experience. So again, this feature is for customers on Autodesk maintenance or desktop subscription because it consumes cloud credits. And if you need more information on these things, just let us know, and we'll have our contact page and a contact info at the end. So again, cloud rendering, I would say, is one of the biggest, especially because it now allows you to not have to rely on one computer, not have to rely on setting up a backburner or manual rate distributed rendering or some kind of render farm system. If all you need is an image. And of course, if you want to introduce Max as part of your workflow, it is now easier, more simplified than ever. Of course, other things that are new are, and this is an example of, since we're wrapping up, camera sequencer. The camera sequencer is a way, and I mentioned it earlier, is a way that you can combine multiple cameras, and those cameras may have already animation timelines, so you can basically, almost like batch rendering, control the sequence, control the video. It's almost like having Adobe After Effects or Premiere within 3D Studio Max. There used to be a way, I mean, there still is a way through RAM and other features within Max that you can bring together multiple shots, but this is a lot easier because, again, it supports the ability to easily cut between cameras, trim, reorder animated clips, while leaving the original animation data unchanged, giving you the flexibility to make edits right within 3D Studio Max. A couple of features worth mentioning that are very great, depending, especially if you do character modeling and texturing. The Quaternion, dual Quaternion skinning. Basically, just whenever you have an area like an elbow or a connector that is especially organic, there is a bow tie effect or candy wrapper with the texture where the mesh loses the volume and it looks pretty weird. So you can try this even with simple geometry like a column that is twisted, and then the longer you twist it, then it starts kind of breaking the geometry, and it gives you very undesirable deformation artifacts. So this is a way that you can skin a character, for instance, and in areas where it's really tricky, like a connector between the arm and the forearm and the elbow and so forth, you will now be able to taper off the linear skin weight automatically. So this is a very fast feature that automatically gets, just a checkbox, basically. And of course, getting into the level of modeling, since I mentioned this couple of features, the OpenSubdiv feature allows you, and this is a new one within the, it will allow you for faster in-viewport performance for meshes. What that means is when you get to a level of detail that is so high in terms of polygons or maybe the level of subdivisions, in Max in the past, the performance started it started causing issues and kind of slowing down and maybe getting hiccups because now you're trying to visualize, the way that things are edited in terms of connecting all the different surfaces with all the different subdivisions within it. But then the closer you zoomed in, you were now experiencing probably performance issues, related issues, and then not only that, but maybe you have to switch to a different level of shading, to a different level of wireframe, just to be able to continue getting that level of zoom. So again, this is a very nice feature that was introduced in 2015 as an extension, and now has been improved for faster speed, quality, and of course allowing other real-time viewport-related visualization. And last but not least, creative markets. I don't know if you know, and I would say a lot of people don't even check this, is in Max, in the help menu, there is a number of paths, resources, and links to connectors and a number of other options for learning, for accessing content, for you name it. And I would tell you 3 off the bat that are pretty cool. The Exchange App Store, which I'll mention in a second, the the one for animation store, which allows you to, if you do any kind of animation, to attach, download things like somebody running or somebody dancing or somebody jumping, and attaching it to a default character that you can buy. Some of them are for free. And then the one I wanted to mention that's new is the one for Creative Market. So what it does, it looks like this. So the Creative Market is basically an area similar to, it's not really like Google Warehouse where you post things for free. It's more like the Unity Asset Store. And for those of you who don't know what Unity is, it's a game engine that has a very famous asset store where everybody goes there and publishes assets for free. Some of them sell it, and then you can also buy things. So I'll give you a very good example is you want to get a set of cars, and those cars are already pre-programmed to maybe control the wheels and maybe have some animation built in, and you don't want to spend the time customizing those. You can buy it. And you can buy packages, you can buy a number of things, maybe characters that may look a little more realistic than what you can get out of the box, which features like populate. My point is you can definitely buy something as simple as textures, and again, some of them are for free, or you can buy models, so you can share your models, you can sell your models, and this is a sort of a community market that is an online marketplace that anybody, any artist, can buy and sell assets to use in any projects. Basically, a user can browse Creative Market to supplement their creative projects with high-quality content created by other users in the community. Very cool feature. I mean, very cool introduction from Autodesk in terms of how you can save time by leveraging things that are already created and that exist. And that, in that regard, of course, the online market, you can do a search and browse for things by category. Similar to the Autodesk Exchange, and this has been around now for a while. The reason I mention it now is because most people think that this is just AutoCAD and Revit. But there is at least close to 100 different add-ons, and an example of things like the last year stereo camera for 2015 and 2016 now, it allows you to create 3D stereoscopic images that if you have the glasses for 3D, and again, the ones that are kind of cyan and they call it anaglyph views, the ones that are kind of a cheap version, you can create 3D views or images that can be experienced with the glasses, and that's something that is available for free. It used to come in default. Now I believe you have to go in and download it from the Autodesk Exchange. Same thing with other tools that used to be automatically installed, such as the composite or match mover, which allow for camera match moving features as well as compositing features, so you can combine render footage with things that you can do after the render animation has been created. So anyway, all of those now are accessed through the Autodesk Exchange store. And again, I would definitely check on the add-ons and features that are here, because a lot of them are free, and basically what they do is expand on the capabilities. So overall, what this tells you is not only do you have now a more community-like access to assets, to add-ons, to tools, but the ability to almost in real time share things that you create yourself, including the tools and kind of automated tasks that are now saved into one button, if you will, through the what I mentioned earlier in terms of the new Max creation graph. Now, all of this is combined definitely enhance the experience and the level of collaboration that you can get now from somebody has from the design level all the way to visualization. So again, a lot of features. We only had a limited amount of time, and I can go on and on with a number of other features, but I'd say this at least shows you some of the reasons why it may not be a bad idea to just, hey, we have the 2016 version, why not upgrade now? Because there are actually good reasons to do so.